Hey y'all. So today we're going to be doing a little something different, and we're going to be taking a look at my top 5 bourbons that I would recommend for starting a home bar. Not necessarily just if you want to start a collection, but specifically if you're looking to entertain or have some things that you can drink a little bit more often, and not necessarily have to spend a lot of money to get some of the higher end bourbons out there. Typically people do like to get a hold of things like Pappy's or Weller's. Where I live in California, it's harder to get a hold of some of those things. If you don't want to pay $600 plus up to, $1,000, there's some of those Pappy's that are $2,500. And so today we're going to go over a few bottles that I have that I think are a really good way to start a bar. So with this in mind, I'm taking into consideration the fact that, one, these are bottles that are going to be drank, and two, these are bottles that I think have an interesting story behind them in order to present, a discussion topic. Typically when I pour for my friends and my family or people that I'm entertaining, I like to tell a little bit about the bottle or the distillery. And so it adds a little bit to not just, pouring and drinking. There's a discussion that can go along with it. So that's what we're going to get into. So my first and foremost is going to be Legend. This is edition 2. So to the best of my knowledge, there are 3 of these. There's the first edition, the second edition, and then the barrel finished edition. This I got for about $30. It's gone a little bit up from there. It's somewhere in the $35 to $40 range, depending on where you get it. The barrel finished one is about $200, give or take. So if you don't know anything about this, I did post a video a little bit ago that goes into a little bit more detail on it. But essentially what this is it's a Jim Beam bourbon that's finished in collaboration with a Japanese whiskey distillery. I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, but there's a very famous Japanese master distiller that they collaborated with in order to get this bourbon, but it is Jim Beam stock. So you are getting a classic Jim Beam taste with a little bit of that Japanese whiskey influence in there. This is a personal favorite of mine in terms of a budget bourbon. I really enjoy it. It's got a cool backstory. It's got a little bit of an interesting bottle design. And that's one of my go-tos. So that's number 1. Number 2 is a classic New Riff single barrel. New Riff has sort of exploded. They are a craft distillery. I guess you could still call them a craft distillery. But when I first got a hold of New Riff, their single barrels were between $30 and $40. They've since gone up from there. You're looking about $40 to $60, depending on where you get it from. If it's, a specific barrel selection single barrel, it's probably going to be more than that. You're looking at the $70 to $80 range. But depending on where you go, you can still get it for pretty cheap, $40 typically. In general, New Riff, their stuff is always exceptional. Even just their basic bourbon is exceptional. The rye is very good. Everything you get from them is very good quality. You can't really go wrong with whatever you get from them. This is my 3rd different single barrel that I've had from them. Each one is a little bit different. Each one is still phenomenal, and I do strongly recommend it. And it's a very good overall bourbon. It drinks much higher than it is in terms of cost, so you get a little bit more bang for your buck. You can also use this as a mixer. It's not expensive enough that you're going to feel bad if you use it as a mixer. But on the flip side of things, it's also high quality enough that it's going to elevate whatever you're using to mix with it. So another really good option there. So next up, we have one of my personal favorites, which is the Old Forester 1910. I believe the Old Forester 1910 is about $55 to $60. They actually reached out to me on a previous video that I did when I talked about how much I liked Old Forester, and they said it's actually not under $50 because I had it on my under $50 list, so it's slightly above that. The nice thing about this bottle is the MSRP, you can pretty much get it for the same price no matter where you are. It's pretty easily available. It's not too much money. And this drink's incredibly high. Now, in full transparency, when I went to Kentucky with my dad a few years ago, we did a blind taste test, and we had this in line with the Pappy 10-year, and both my dad, me, and the person that was conducting the blind taste test all chose this over the Pappy 10-year. That's not to slight the Pappy 10-year at all. It's a phenomenal bourbon, but this drinks exceptionally well for a $55 to $60 bourbon. And it's part of their Whiskey Row series, so it's got a little bit of a backstory to it that you can talk about. In fact, Old Forester just released a new Whiskey Row series. I'll talk about that in another video because I have mixed feelings on that. But this is a phenomenal bourbon. I really enjoy it. I routinely keep this in my cabinet and routinely pour this as sort of a higher end pour, even though I have quite a few much more expensive bourbons than this. But for me, it's not necessarily about the price spent on a bottle. It's more about the taste, the story, and the experience of the bottle. And this to me is genuinely one of my favorite bourbons that I have. I consistently find myself pouring this. So this is option number 3. Number 4 is Smoke Wagon, uncut, unfiltered. So if you're unfamiliar with Smoke Wagon is a Nevada-based distillery in Las Vegas. They produce a number of things, including both a Christmas and a Halloween edition bourbon. But I really enjoy Smoke Wagon. It's a little bit of a different flavor profile. It's a little bit bolder, a little bit stronger. Each barrel that they make is a little bit different. I do believe that you can consider this a single barrel, even though it's not called a single barrel. It's called uncut, unfiltered. But each one is a different proof with a different barrel number or batch number. And one of the things that I like about it on the back is it tells you the date on the back of it, when it was bottled, as well as the batch number. This is, again, you're probably looking between $60 and $70. It's a really good option to have as a slightly more expensive bottle in your cabinet without having to break the bank. It's got phenomenal taste, it's got phenomenal flavor, and for me, because I live in California on the West Coast, it's really easy to get a hold of. They have all different sorts of different releases you can try and get a hold of, including single barrel selects, including much less exclusive editions, all the way up to their arguably their most famous edition, which is their first 10, which is going for a couple $1,000s right now, aftermarket. This is my 3rd bottle of Smoke Wagon. Sorry, I don't know why I just blanked on that. And they're all slightly different. They all have a different proof, but they're all phenomenal. And this is also one of my dad's favorite bourbons also. In fact, I just poured a little bit last night, and you probably can't tell because it's just dark glass, but we're down to about here. And we were just talking about whether or not we should get another bottle now or hold off and try and get something else. But it's a phenomenal bottle. So last but not least, I have the Bardstown Discovery Series number 11. Now, in general, when it comes to Bardstown, you can't go wrong. Pretty much everything they produce is phenomenal. 3 months ago, I would have had the Bardstown Discovery number 8 here, but instead I have the number 11 because I just got a hold of it and it's phenomenal. Here's the thing about Bardstown. The Discovery Series are a little bit more difficult to get a hold of, but unlike most limited releases, you can actually get it for MSRP. I got mine for $10 above MSRP, but that's nothing. This is a $125 bourbon. Sorry, $150 bourbon. I paid $160 for it, and this was right after, like within days of the release, I was able to get it. And my opinion on Bardstown is that pretty much everything they produce is phenomenal. There are things that are better and things that are worse, but in general, what they make is amazing. In terms of starting a collection, having this as your high-end bourbon that you're pouring on special occasions, you can't go wrong. It's amazing. In my opinion, it's the best thing that Bardstown's produced in a number of years. And as you can see, we haven't had very much of it. I poured a little bit of it to taste it when I did my my review of it. I poured a little bit during a blind taste test from when my dad did. Then I poured a little of it when I opened it. But other than that, I've really been saving it for special occasions because it holds against some of the even really expensive bourbons out there. And it makes for a phenomenal high-end pour. So these are my picks for starting my collection. I might do it over again if I had, you know, a little bit more knowledge. These are probably what I would go with. I'm always curious to hear what you have to say. If you agree, if you disagree, if you recommend that I try something different, let me know in the comments below. I'm always down to try new stuff. As I approach 100 bottles, I'm always looking for new things that are just completely different than what I've experienced before. So definitely let me know. As always, enjoy, drink safely, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.